Welcome back to PRN Test Drive. I'm James, and this is the 2024 Acura ZDX A-Spec. Now, the A-Spec is very much the entry level for Acura's new electric vehicle platform. And the interesting thing about it is Acura's ZDX and Honda's Prologue are both based off GM's Ultium platform that I literally just showed you last week in the Chevrolet Blazer. The Ultium platform is also seen on things like the Cadillac Lyriq that Niall was able to show you a couple of weeks ago. Now, there is as well a Type S version of the ZDX available that Niall also showed you last week. So naturally, I just got out of the Chevrolet Blazer EV RS and then hopped into this, a vehicle that is very much based off GM's platform. And the second I started driving around in it, I had a question. Have Acura taken GM's platform and made a better EV out of it? Let me know in the comments what you think. I'm gonna kind of go over the differences between the two as I see them with you, and at the end of the video, I'll tell you what I actually think after spending a week with both vehicles. But first, I wanna tell you a little bit about this ZDX A-Spec. So under the floor, because there is no front trunk under the hood, we have a 102 kilowatt hour battery with up to 489 kilometers of EV range. But I've been seeing well over 500, contrary to last week when I saw exactly the number that GM said, 499 kilometers, but it was a smaller 85 kilowatt hour battery. Now, I am very aware that the Blazer does have a rear-wheel drive version, but I'm strictly comparing all-wheel drive to all-wheel drive here. Now, with the ZDX A-Spec, we're looking at 490 horsepower, 437 pound-feet of torque. This thing absolutely flies. And if you want a little bit more horsepower, well, the Type S ZDX has 499 horsepower. I'm not sure why they couldn't just get 500, but it is 499. Now, also, if you upgrade to a ZDX Type S, you're going to get better braking performance as well as some nicer looking rims, and you get air suspension. So is that going to be worth the price upgrade? I'll leave that up to you. All right, so next up, I want to sit inside and talk to you a little bit about the interior of the ZDX A-Spec. So a lot of GM inspired things or just straight up GM stuff in here, which honestly, I don't mind. I feel like Acura has done a good job at kind of blending those two worlds. So let's go over it. So I've got a really nice steering wheel. I love the red stitching here. I like the A-Spec logo. Type S, you're gonna get a Type S logo, of course. I don't have the Acura Cruise or the Super Cruise for GM's model. I don't have that here on the A-Spec, but if you go up to the Type S, you will be able to get that. So that is a really big plus. On the Blazer RS that I showed you last week, we did not have that either. So as far as that goes, we're pretty much the same, but we do have the cruise control options here as well. I do have the heated steering button right on my steering wheel. These buttons, these dials and knobs here, they're all just straight up GM. I've got my media controls behind here. I've also got a little paddle that I could pull, and it basically increases the regen braking to max, and it brakes pretty hard when you hold that paddle. The gear selector here is a very good one. I loved it on the Blazer. I love it on the Acura because it's the same one. Check that out. And then we got our digital gauge cluster controls, which is a different theme, but I still have Google Maps built into my digital gauge cluster as well as the infotainment, so that's a nice touch as well. But I've got a couple of different screens like I showed you last week with the Blazer, but this one is very much the Acura style. It feels like a reskin, but it does look very nice. I actually prefer this one over the Blazer's one. My left-hand side here, I've got some drive mode controls. I would like to see that somewhere here, but I do like that there is a button for it. That is nice. And you've got your sport mode, your individual mode, as well as your snow mode. So that's going to be nice to have as well. And I had the same type of stuff on the Blazer EV. Now let's talk about this infotainment display. You could see that last week when I showed you, it's a very different take to Acura from GM. GM decided to opt in their Blazer for this huge sprawling screen across one piece, and GM's pretty good at doing that in their EVs, whereas Acura has kept it very much to quite big screens. And I don't know, I did like having a massive screen, and I think screens sell because the Blazer's popping up like everywhere lately, and I really haven't seen any Acura ZDXs around my town at all. But I think that might be due to more pricing than actual features and looks. But let me talk to you about this infotainment. So like I said, Google is built in. I've got wireless Apple CarPlay, wireless Android Auto, as well as wired for both, something that the Blazer and Chevrolet products on EVs absolutely do not have anymore. They've taken away that choice. I still have the Play Store here, so I can still download Google apps if I want to and use them as well. So if I want to connect my phone and use Google Maps, I can do that. If I want to use the built-in Google Maps, I can do that. And in my opinion, that's the way it should be. Thank you, Acura, for giving us the choice. Now, in terms of theme and styling, it's a very much Acura theme styled kind of infotainment display, but there is no touchpad. I know Acura is very good at putting touchpads in here. None. This is a genuine touchscreen, and I like it, and I'm here for it. I'm glad they didn't give us a touchpad in the electric vehicle. We're good there. But I've got my basic stuff here too. I've got my one-pedal driving settings. The lighting controls are going to be now locked into the infotainment display, much like GM's, almost all of GM's car, even the gas cars are like that now as well. So that's very much a GM control there. I do have a little control center here, but basically what's cool is if you've ever driven or used a modern day GM, you can hop into the ZDX and you'll be able to figure this out in absolutely no time. And I actually think that's kind of cool. So now we'll move a little bit lower. I've got my dual zone automatic climate control, and all of these buttons are straight up out of the Blazer. I mean, the Blazer had a lot less buttons, so I like the fact that Acura has taken GM's buttons still, but given us a lot more. I've also got ventilated and heated seats as well in here. I believe the Blazer EV RS did have the same thing, so we're pretty much on par still there, but I do like the fact that here I've got better controls here. I've got a lot more going on, and I don't have to use the climate app in the infotainment to control everything. I can do it right from here. Quick touch, quick access, that's what I like. Now a little bit lower, 2 USB-C ports, and where we saw on the Blazer that we had this kind of, this sinkhole of storage in the middle here, Acura has opted for the shelf, which in my opinion looks a little bit better, and it's a little bit more usable, because I would have to in the Blazer, I'd have to kind of lean over and really get in there to see what's in there. Here, I can see from my driver's seat what's on the bottom of the shelf here, and I can see what's on the top. A great place for your phone if you're using wired CarPlay like I like to do. We've got 2 cup holders right here, pretty standard stuff, and then we've got our slot for our wireless charging. Excellent place if you want to wireless charge your phone. It's the same that you see on a lot of different Acuras, and I like it here as well. Now I've got a deep pocket of storage here with a really good light. I found actually, and this is getting into the small details, but since I just hopped out of the Blazer, I see everything. So in here, in the storage center console here, there was a light inside the Blazer EV, but it wasn't very bright. The one in the Acura is like, I can see everything, no problem, and I really, really appreciate that. Now, let's talk about seats as well, because I remember having a problem with the Blazer EV seats. I like them, they were comfortable, great for everyday use, do not get me wrong, but the quality of the seats here on the Acura ZDX is so much better. I love the bolstering. This thing has over 400 horsepower. When you're pushing that kind of numbers, you need good bolstering, and this has it. The leather's really, really good and comfortable and soft. We've also got a Bang & Olufsen, I don't even know if I'm saying that right, but we've got a B&O audio system in here as well, which sounds phenomenal. We didn't get any special upgrade in terms of audio in the Blazer EV that I was driving, so I really do like that as well. But of course, you're paying a bunch of money for all of these premium features. I want you to keep that in mind as we go through this. And one last thing that I said was missing on the Blazer that I in fact have on the ZDX is a sunroof. And the sunroof, if I look up, I see a GM logo. So it's just kind of weird to look at your steering wheel, see an Acura logo, and then look up and see a GM logo. It can be a little confusing if you're not in the know, but I still think it's really cool. But one thing that I noticed that the Blazer EV had that this ZDX does not is 360-degree cameras. I don't have it. I do have the parking sensors, but since this is still quite a big platform, quite a big EV, I feel myself kind of missing the 360-degree camera, especially in the price point that we're in with the ZDX. I feel like that should have just been standard instead of keeping it for only your higher models. If you only have 2 models, I feel like you got to give us most of the good stuff. But overall, I do really like the premium nature and feel of the ZDX. I like their decisions that they've made. I also like the fact that you could put a gas engine in this ZDX. You could give it an exhaust, And when it comes to the A-Spec, I might not even be able to tell the difference. And I think that's something really important. That's something that really attracts me to EVs nowadays. I don't know if I need an EV to look like an EV. I'm completely fine with it looking like a normal everyday SUV that just happens to be electric. And the ZDX A-Spec is really close to being exactly that. Enough talking, enough sitting around. Let's take this thing for a test drive. And during that segment, just near the end of it, I will tell you my answer if Acura have taken GM's Ultium platform and made a better EV on top of it. So, test drive time now for the ZDX A-Spec. What a good week that it has been, honestly, to spend a lot of time with it. I've actually got quite a bit of hours inside the ZDX because it is Acura's first attempt. Also, with the platform issue out of the way, they get to put a lot of effort into design, and I think the Acura has got that really good. Now, it is pretty sporty. I pretty much always drive around in sport mode, so let's see what 490 EV horsepower in an Acura feels like. Let's go. Whoa! It's got the motor noises and everything, which I do keep on because I find them cool and not too loud that it's annoying. But it's pretty fast. Like, it's not like this where it's gonna really put you in your seat there, but it's got quite a pickup. Like, I notice when you're at a stop sign and you try to floor it, it's not that fast of a pickup. But if you're already going and then I smash it, it goes a lot faster. It's like it's almost like it's already in gear, ready to go, and the motors are ready to take that hit. But it's quick, and I mean, you can pass literally anybody with this thing. It's just ridiculous how fast it is. Do you need that much horsepower? Absolutely not. I was completely happy with the 200 and something horsepower that the Blazer EV had. It still had the instant pickup. It still had the instant torque hit. It still was fun. This one is just a lot more fun. And, I did find it a little slow for an all-wheel drive version of the Blazer to be the slower version of the two, whereas Acura, it's just, we got all-wheel drive, here's 490 horsepower. The Type S increases that horsepower by only 9, so is it worth the price increase for the performance? I guess we'll find out, but so far, I've seen a lot more Blazers than I have Acura ZDX. I've seen 0 ZDXs, and I've probably seen 1 or 2 Blazers on the road just as I'm driving, just to get to the place where I start my test drive here. So yeah, that is something to keep in mind too. But I think that goes back to price, right? When you talk about 64,000 versus 84,000, that's a big jump in price. And I don't think a lot of people have that kind of funds. And maybe, Chevrolet's doing a deal, they're probably discounting them. Acura could be doing the same thing, but even 80 to 60 discounted is still going to be a big jump in price for either one. So I think that's why we're seeing a lot more Blazers than we are ZDXs. I feel about as comfortable in the both vehicles. I think, the ride quality is pretty much the same. That probably a lot has to do with the platform. Maybe Acura's ride quality is a little bit less bumpy, a little bit less aggressive, the way they've tuned their suspension and stuff like that. Handling, though, I felt like it was the exact same. It's good. I do like the handling. It's the classic SUV handling. It's not really going to load up that much. I mean, maybe the Type S takes that a bit further for the ZDX, but it's basic handling, easy to maneuver in a parking lot, stuff like that, easy to park, even without 360-degree cameras. I think it's it's your standard stuff. There's really nothing to worry about in that area. Visibility is also really good. I like the way that I don't really have any blind spots here. I am quite a big vehicle, so that's going to be important too. The blind spot technology works phenomenal. The lane keep assist works really well as well. So built-in Google Maps is really nice. And just the fact that I have the choice to use my phone, to project my phone via CarPlay or just use the built-in stuff is a really, really big thing. And I like the fact that, Acura has given us the choice, despite the fact that GM has decided to take it away. I prefer the choice. I like both, but I just want to be able to plug my phone in and use it. That is honestly a deal breaker for me in cars now. I like to project my phone. I love the way it works. I don't necessarily need it to change. I probably wouldn't buy a Tesla for that exact reason. So as we get towards the end of the video, let me answer the question that I posed at the beginning. Did Acura take GM's platform and make a better EV on top of it? This might surprise some of you, but I think they did. In my opinion, and I mean this opinion is going to come down to straight up preference, but in my opinion, after spending a week with both of them, I do think that Acura has done a better job at iterating an EV in the way that I like it. Because like I said in the beginning, you could take this car, put a gas engine in it, especially the A-Spec, and I might not even know that it was supposed to be an electric vehicle. And I kind of like vehicles like that. Like, yes, the front end is interesting. The wheelbase is big. They kind of had to do some stretching around and some different things. But even then, I would still consider that to be a modern thing. They probably would have had to put an intake and stuff like that, so it would look a little bit different. But what I'm saying is, it looks more like a normal SUV than the Blazer does. The Blazer, I could tell that thing's an EV from miles away, right? Whereas this, the ZDX, I don't know. I feel like some people might have a little bit of problems, figuring out what it was if you were actually interested in trying to figure that out. But I just feel like they've done a better job despite not having 360-degree camera and stuff like that. I like the fact, like I said, it is a deal breaker for me personally to not have Apple CarPlay. That is one of my pillars. I need my heated steering, I need my heated seats, and I need my CarPlay. Those are things that I really wanted to have when I consider buying a car, EV or gas. I also like the comfort of the seats a lot more. I mentioned how in the Blazer EV, I didn't like that there was not a lot of bolstering despite it being the RS version. This isn't even the sporty version, and I still feel like the A-Spec has a lot better materials. And yes, you are paying more money for this. So there is a factor there too to take in consideration. If somebody comes up to me and asks me purely off preference, which one do I think did a better job? I'm telling you, Acura ZDX did a better job. If you're talking economical, if you're talking money, then buy the Blazer, there's no question. Yes, this does cost more. You don't get 360 camera, you don't get a big screen, stuff like that, but it depends on if that really matters to you. And obviously, like I said as well, you've been seeing the Blazer absolutely pop up everywhere, and you're probably still not seeing the ZDX because it is that expensive. I feel like the A-Spec, if it was priced a little bit lower, it could actually compete with the very platform that it's based on. And I think maybe Acura should consider that. But I don't know, I just feel a lot better in the ZDX than I did in the Blazer EVRS. And that's not to say that I didn't like it, because I really did enjoy the Blazer. I think it is an excellent EV platform. I think GM has done an excellent job with the design if you like cars that look like an EV. But it's one of the nicest looking EVs around so far. Like, I really like the Ioniq 6. I was about to say N, but there's no N yet. I like the Ioniq 6 a lot for its design. I like the Blazer for the same reason. Those are my two favorite sedan and SUV EVs right now on the market that look like actual EVs. This one, the ZDX, to me, at least in the A-Spec, doesn't really look that much like an EV. Now, I know that's a hot take, and I know that not all of you are going to agree with it, but if it gets you to engage, if we can have a conversation about it, that's what I want to do. So in the comments, let me know what you think. Which one did a better job, Blazer EV, or even you think the Cadillac Lyriq is better? Which one do you think, whose Ultium platform electric vehicle did the best job? Let us know in the comments. Let's have a conversation. Niall's always in there. We respond to every single comment. I like to pop in there from my Technically Cars channel all the time and talk with you guys. I love the community that we're trying to create here, and I really want you to be a part of the discussions. That's why I gotta make a hot take some of the time, but I do genuinely believe that if you put both of these vehicles side by side, I'm going with Acura ZDX every time. So that being said, let me know what you think of the ZDX in general, and I'll see you in the next week. See you in the next car. Take care.